Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Good evening, Wolves fans. Welcome to your latest match preview episode for this weekend's game away to Newcastle United. I'm going to be your host this evening, Little Dan. Alongside with me, I've got the stalwart of the Wolves Fancast, Rich Hobbs. How are we?
We're good. Apart from the snow, because it came a bit of an anticlimax by 10 o'clock. Like, whole world shut down by 10 o'clock. It was completely normal. Whole day ruined. Apart from that,
as a man with no children, I thought it was just another damning example of how weak this country has become. That in the space of 12 minutes, parents were getting messages saying, "Be careful on your way to school this morning," and 19 minutes later, school's closed. It's embarrassing. From me being probably 2'11", walking to school as a junior school kid in the snow. People need to grow up and really get used to the conditions, because things used to be a lot worse in our day.
It was ridiculous. Like, I mean, I managed. I drove my daughter to nursery to get there to find the manager standing by the gate saying, "It's closed. We sent an email out last night." And me going, okay, feeling a bit awkward, and finding out, getting an email 5 minutes later telling me it was closed, to then getting my wife getting very angry and emailing about why we only found out now, of which they said, well, we scheduled the email to go out last night, to go out this morning at 7:23 a.m. And my big thing with that is, why 7:23? It feels like such a weird, make it 20 past, or I don't know, but yeah, it kind of puts a bit of a kibosh on your entire day when it was completely fine 2 hours later. But
that's why there's people like me who are continuously running this country. I'm already on my way to work by 7:23. It's an absolute joke. Exactly. Let's try and crowbar this back to a Wolves chat. Making his debut on the Wolves Fancast tonight is Aidan Lowe. Fantastic spawn of recent guest Alex Lowe. As you can hear by his accent, he's not a black country born and bred lad. Alex told us the story about how you became a Wolves fan and how you rightfully made the correct decision in the long run. But just give us a repeat of how you came about being a Wolves fan, Aidan.
Right, so basically, it's not I'm not too proud of it. I mean, I know my Wolves mates give me a few pelters about it, not being from Wolverhampton and everything. But yeah, as a young lad, I got into football through the 2010 World Cup, and I think it come straight after that. He puts a poster of QPR v Wolves on my fridge, and I didn't really have a team sport back then. I was 6 years old, didn't really have a clue to sport. But I found it funny that Wolves beat QPR first and foremost, and then also I like the fact they were like an underdog as well. Like all my mates, being from Watford, the top six fans, you get the old Man United fans who've never set foot in Manchester in their life, and it all stemmed from that really. Like I like the badge as well, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, it's not the best reason. But when you pick a team and when you probably get a connection to it, you can't. It's not gonna stop you.
Everyone's a Wolves fan deep down. They just haven't seen the golden light yet. I've got Pete waiting for me in the lobby. I'm going to bring him in from the Loudon Mag NUFC YouTube channel in a few seconds. But we're just going to do a quick bit of housekeeping. If you head over to our Wolves Twitter page at Wolves Fancast, you'll see that we're giving away 2 tickets to Wolves legend Dave Edwards' charity match against his boyhood club Shrewsbury, which is being played on the 26th of March. There is also a raffle for which you can win a place on either side. Wolves' side was announced today via Dave Edwards' social media channels. You've got Dave Edwards, Carl Emery, Carl Hakimi, Jody Craddock, Michael Mancien, Matt Jarvis, Chrissy Wellamo, George Elokobi, Kevin Foley, Michael Gray, Stephen Ward, David Jones, Sam Ricketts, Richard Stearman, Matty Hill, Stephen Hunt, Leon Clark, Marlon Harewood, and a guy who's getting a lot of Twitter a bit annoyed at this charity match. It's Jamie O'Hara. Guys, it's a great charity. It's going to be a great day. Get yourself down to Shrewsbury. Show your appreciation to Dave Edwards, who pretty much one season pretty much saved us with his goals, him and Helder Costa. And whilst you're there, just give Jamie O'Hara a bit of abuse. It's just make a day of it. Just enjoy yourself. That's what we're there as Wolves fans to do. Love and hate our players in droves. Out of that side, Rich, which Wolves players sort of took your eye that you're glad of making the appearance?
I guess I know first and foremost Carl Hakimi, because this is surely like the third. I know he did that training session. Was it a year ago? But I think this
with Tony Roberts, yeah.
Yeah, I think this might be like his first actual game. One thing that strikes me is you've got quite a number of players who play in similar positions, which I guess that happens. But, you know, you've got Elokobi, Mickey Gray, Matt Hill. Who's going to be playing left back? I know none of them can make the 90 minutes, but there's competition for spaces there for me.
Rich, you've missed Stephen Ward there. There's another left back.
He'll always be a striker in my eyes. No, exactly. You know, we're talking 4 left backs. You know, it's going to be tricky. I think maybe Stearman, because I think off the top of my head, he's the only one who's still playing. I think
Michael Manson's still got to be playing, surely.
I don't know. He must be. I just have no idea where, to be honest. He is. Is it Burton, of all places? Yeah. Good men go to die. No. I think Jamie O'Hara, just because from following on social media as well, he seems to do quite a lot of these testimonial charity games as well. And I think he's still, despite everything else about him, is probably still quite a half-decent footballer, unfortunately.
Obviously, Aidan, you talked about how you became a Wolves fan back in 2010. A lot of those players were key for us in our promotion just before that 2010. What players stand out for you there? Obviously, you're a bit young, but some of those players were in the Wolves Premier League era as a youngster. Yeah,
definitely. There's a few my favourites there, to be honest. Jarvis stands out. I love Jarvis. He was definitely my favourite. But yeah, along with Hunt, Elokobi, Foley, Stephen Ward. But I mean, obviously, like it's nice to see Hakimi, to be honest. After everything that happened, it'll be nice to see him back out there. So yeah.
I say,
Ponty Delay on in the comment section saying Elokobi will play where he likes and no one will argue with him. And to be honest, I can't disagree at all. What are you going to say there, Rich?
I was going to say just one for the corrections and clarifications corner, Dan, regarding Michael Mancien. He didn't actually ever play for Burton. I think the last club we signed him in 2020-21, but he didn't actually play for them. The last club he apparently played for was New England Revolution.
Well, MLS, where good players go to retire/die. Sorry to our American viewers. The MLS will get there one day, maybe not in my lifetime, but let's keep supporting the MLS. There's still a few good players who have graced the pitch over the pond there. Just going back to this charity match, Dave Edwards and the Little Rascals Foundation, as I mentioned, are raffling a place off for either side. You can enter for £5, which is donated to the charity at shop.foundation.co.uk/product-category-fundraising. I'm going to be having a go. I know quite a few of my mates who are all having a go. It's like I said, it's a great cause, the Little Rascals Foundation, and like I said, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play with some ex-Wolves and Shrewsbury legends if you that way inclined. This week is game week 27 of the Premier League, and I joined Pete of the Louded Mag NUFC YouTube channel last night to spend 2 hours fawning over Newcastle approaching the Champions League places. It was a long night for me, but it's always a pleasure to go on their channel. I've got Pete with me tonight. How are you doing, Pete, since we last spoke?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Just been checking out a few pictures, and we came across this on Loaded Mag, and so I just thought I'd show it you. It's someone you might recognise.
Rich did say you had a present for me, and like Rich, you might not be aware of the full story, but back in I think it was December time, maybe early January during the transfer window, Pete decided to DM me out of nowhere with no hello mate, how are you, happy new year, with Ruben Neves might be coming to Newcastle. What do you think? And in an impolite response, I told Pete that next time he needs to say hello first before he tries to talk to me about taking our illustrious captain, love of our life, away from me. What's your opinions on Ruben Neves possibly joining Newcastle United, Rich? Do you think it's plausible?
I don't think it's implausible. I don't necessarily know if I don't kind of know how he fits in and how he differs from Bruno Guimaraes greatly from that perspective. In terms of Neves himself, I don't quite see it, but I don't know, because I think his stocks dropped a little bit, Neves, in the last kind of couple of years, and the World Cup didn't necessarily help him. But I don't know. He'd almost be signing up for another project, and he's had that at Wolves for half a decade now. And don't get me wrong, where Newcastle starting from in their project compared to Wolves being in, about 14th in the Championship when he technically joined. I don't know. If I was Ruben Neves at this point in his career, I'd be trying to get that next step up beyond a Newcastle, even if, let's say, Newcastle are that little bit of a step beyond us at the moment, personally. But he doesn't have a lot of options, I don't think, because I think if the club wanted to sign Neves, they'd have nabbed him by now, and they kind of haven't done. And there's always been sort of a bit of hearsay around United or Arsenal, but nothing really that concrete. So, maybe Newcastle with their money, if they're willing to sort of put 50 million on the table for him and really test Wolves' resolve, be interesting to see. But from my perspective, he's quite similar to Guimaraes in that regards. So I don't know. It's how you get those two very good midfielders working together for me.
It's like I said last night, Pete, he'd be an absolute upgrade when Guimaraes goes to Real Madrid. Aidan, what's your opinion on Ruben Neves possibly going to Newcastle? What sort of transfer fee do you think Wolves should be looking for Ruben Neves? Last night, I was quoting to Pete on his channel, maybe sort of 35 million, because he only got 1 year left on his contract. But what do you think's a fair Neves based on the fact 1 year left on his contract?
Well, I mean, to us, I think he's worth about 70, 80 million odd. But I mean, like you say, obviously he's going into his final year of his contract, and I feel like for what he's done for the club, it's sort of like a big team. Maybe probably not Newcastle, but a bigger team. Like I can guarantee him Champions League football maybe straight away, like a solid place in the starting 11. If they come in for him for a lower fee, maybe it's like we sort of owe it to him. But I mean, then again, football don't really work like that. So I don't know. I mean, with Newcastle, like Richard says, he's a tad similar to Guimaraes, and there's no guarantees in Newcastle. Maybe it's a bit more of a sideways move. I don't know. I think there's potentially, if Barcelona came in for him, or potentially Man United, Liverpool, I think more likely to them.
Yeah, we did talk about it quite in depth last night, didn't we, Pete? Where do you feel Neves and Guimaraes could play together, or is there a whole different style of play that would have to be tweaked to accommodate that?
I think they complement each other really well, if I'm honest. We are currently trying to we're looking for sort of a deep line midfielder that can allow Bruno Guimaraes to play further forward. If you're not aware already, we play with a midfield 3. So we almost play with 2 8s and 1 6. And Bruno, for a long part, has been playing that 6 role, but at the back end of last season, he was so effective in the number 8 role and able to play those killer passes moving forward. We almost need someone like that, or someone that can interchange, that can play the 6 and the 8. And from the sounds of it, and from what you said last night, Dan, Neves has sort of done that for you guys in parts this season as well. So I actually think that they'd complement each other well. Adding into that, Neves is very, very good with the ball. He likes to keep the ball. He's nice and tidy. Great creative passing. And we need more creativity in the team. And look, let's not forget his ability to score from deep. It's the one thing that we're probably lacking in our team, and he would bring that to us. So for me, it would be a no-brainer. Now, I was shocked last night that you mentioned around the 35 million. I did know he had a year left in his contract, but I'm of the mindset that you guys, like Aidan said, you guys are going to want more from him because he's such an important component to your team. But look, I have to say, first and foremost, man, like after that point, thank you for having me on the channel. I didn't get a chance to say that first up, and Julie is absolutely right in the chat. Of course, I'm winding you up, just like Dad did to his last night. So it's just a bit of friendly banter.
Yeah, it is all banter. That's what one of the things I love most about appearing on your channel is the friendly community you've got in the comment section. Because like you said, on a lot of other channels, it's very toxic at times. And Georgia Toon for life, she may be joining us based on last night's performance of the two of us and Rich Story. It was an enjoyable evening. Obviously, there's news coming out tonight that Alan Shearer, Ian Wright are standing by Gary Lineker after the BBC have theoretically suspended him due to, I believe it's impartiality. I don't want to get too much into politics because it's an absolute minefield, and we'll end up down a rabbit hole talking about this and that. And it's just, we're a Wolves football channel. We're here to talk about football, what we all love to watch. As I said, it's game week 27 in the Premier League, and there is some big games this weekend starting at tomorrow lunchtime. You have, I believe it's Bournemouth versus Liverpool kicking off the weekend, 12:30 on BT Sport. Everton at home to Brentford, Leeds at home to Brighton, Leicester face Chelsea, Spurs at home to Tottenham, and the evening kickoff is Man City going away to Patrick Vieira, who, according to social media today, is having his job security sort of being questioned by the Crystal Palace board, which comes as no surprise to me because I've been telling everyone for months that Crystal Palace are in dire straits. Wilfried Zaha's off at the end of the season. He's running his contract down, trying to avoid not getting injured before a big money move somewhere else. Where else are the goals coming from for Crystal Palace? They're one of my tips to go down this summer coming. On Sunday, obviously, it's Fulham versus Arsenal, Man United, Southampton, West Ham versus Aston Villa, and then obviously the showpiece of Sunday, which we'll be talking about in depth tonight, Newcastle versus Wolves, 4:30 on Sky Sports. From today's press conference, Julian Lopetegui handed out pizza boxes to all of the journalists in the house at Compton after making a deal that next time Wolves got a clean sheet, he would buy them all pizzas. Let's just go a bit off tangent at the moment. I had a pizza from Domino's earlier on this evening. What's your pizza of choice, Pete?
Funnily enough, I've had Domino's tonight myself. Yeah, I had mine's an American hot chicken, American chicken hot, something like that. It was called. Yeah, really nice. So it must be a Domino's type of night tonight.
Must be. What's your pizza of choice, Aidan?
Yeah, I'd definitely back a Domino's. Probably be a meat feast, to be honest. Yeah, been a little while since I had it, but yeah, no, definitely agree.
I went for the Domino's cheeseburger pizza with chicken wings as a side. What about you, Rich? What's your tipple of choice when it comes to those pizzas?
I was going to say, tend to be on sort of the meat side of things. I do quite like the cheeseburger one. Usually I go meat feast. Sides, I like to get the chicken combo. So you get the chicken wings, chicken strippers, and the kickers. The three lots, because I'm secretly fat. To be honest, so I love a Domino's, but it ain't half expensive. I mean, did Lopetegui get the pizzas for the media because he's also getting it for the players as well? Because I'm sure, was it Lopetegui? It was Lopetegui who was doing it for players as well. So it must
Yeah,
just
he has made the deal with the actual squad that every time they keep a clean sheet, he'll take them out for a meal, which is a good incentive. But when you hear rumours that he doubled his salary from £4 million to £8 million a year to get the deal done between Wolves and himself, you can see why he's making these incentive deals with the squad. Let's go back to the fixtures for game week 27. Obviously, Bournemouth at home to Liverpool at 12:30. Rich, I'll come to you first. Where's your money on for the Saturday fixtures? Where's your money for a banker win?
For a banker, if we move past sort of Man City, because I agree with you. I don't think Palace will go down this season because I think there's just 3 worse teams than them, but they are on that slide down. And as you've so eloquently noticed, Dan, they are a nothing football side. They've contributed so little to the game, which I kind of agree with. Probably Brighton's your banker there, because Leeds, again, are looking all out of shape for me still. I know they've got a new manager in, but Brighton just are so relentless in how they play. And I know if Leeds aren't anywhere near top form and aren't defensively sound, they'll get ripped apart. So I think, on the Saturday, I think Brighton, just because you look at some of the other teams that are playing, you've got, Everton, dog shite, Leicester, Chelsea, so inconsistent. Spurs, they must be bad because we beat them, and Bournemouth, Liverpool as well. So, yeah, for me, Brighton would be where I'm putting my 2 pence on.
I personally don't think Man City's a banker of Crystal Palace. I know I'll keep tipping them to go down, but they always seem to struggle at Crystal Palace. Man City do, similar to we do. They never seem to get into a rhythm. It's a horrible place to go to. Pep Guardiola regularly moans about their journeys to London and how much of a chore it is. I feel like Crystal Palace could nick a draw there. It might be one of them games where Man City throw the kitchen sink at it and for whatever reason they can't just get it over the line. I think Spurs will come back and absolutely smash Nottingham Forest this weekend. They got beat by us last weekend. They went out the Champions League this week, and they really need to start picking up points. And I think they'll be glad to have Nottingham Forest at home, because Nottingham Forest's away form is absolutely atrocious. Where's your money, Pete, for a banker on Saturday?
Money for a banker? I'm gonna have to go Brentford.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go Brentford. I just think Everton are destined to get relegated, and I hope they do. I think it's time, in my opinion. I think Brentford are playing very, very well at the moment, playing some very, very good football, good attacking football. They destroyed them there, I think, last season at Goodison Park, and I genuinely feel like they're going to do it again.
As a former Newcastle player, Pete, Ivan Toney has had this pending ban on betting charges lingering over his head for a few months now. Can you try and provide some form of logic on how he's still playing games week in, week out?
You know what? Go on. Sorry, Dan. What were we going to say?
How can you have a charge of that extent? I mean, I think Joey Barton got an 18-month ban for having half the betting charges that Ivan Toney's got. Either the FA need to suspend him, or this gets quashed. You can't be playing games in some teams and then banned for others. Provide some logic for me there.
It's honestly, it's a mad situation.
Anyone.
And for me, I don't know if you can hear me. For me personally, I think the fact that he's pleaded guilty to a number of them already says to me that he's already pleaded that he's guilty. So therefore, why is he not serving the ban now? Now, for me, I think the reason why he's not serving the ban now is because they're going to leave it as late as possible in the season to ensure that whatever ban he gets, the off season is going to take a chunk of it. And I think that's the only logical reason in my head as to why they're doing this. And they're almost looking out for the player, which no other player. Trippier was banned when he was at Atletico Madrid, but Joey Barton exactly the same. There are many others that haven't got that same grace, but it's almost like they're looking out for him and they're just kind of holding it back and waiting for the season to die down before they then slap that ban on, which for me, I don't agree with. From a personal point of view, we're in a battle for Europe with Brentford, and taking Toney away from Brentford is a big plus to a lot of the teams in and around Brentford at the moment. And I think a lot of teams, if Brentford continue on this great run and do pick a European place at some point, I think there'll be a lot of questions asked, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I find it. I genuinely find it shocking.
Toney's no sort of odd player, is he?
No,
definitely not.
I might be having a bit of lag. Rich, you take over if I'm really struggling. Aidan, looking at the game week 27 fixtures, where's your money on for a team that's guaranteed to win this weekend?
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say, Brighton and Brentford, they're looking very good at the minute. I mean, yeah, leaning more towards Brighton. Just Matoma in that attack, they're just relentless. Like Leeds as well. Like I'm not too sure. I don't know. Defensively aren't great at all. I trust Everton slightly more with Deitch than compared to Javi Gracia. But yeah, I think Brighton are going to have too much for them. I think they'll comfortably beat them.
Pete, obviously I know you're home and away traveller supporting the Toon. Who's the best opposition you've come up against this season, in your opinion? Is it a simple answer as Man City, or has anyone else taken your eye?
I'll be honest with you. I think up until maybe Liverpool, or up until like the Liverpool game just before the cup final, as an alternative team, I would say outside of that traditional sort of top six, I would actually say Brighton. We played them second game of the season, and it was a 0-0, and we were lucky to get the 0-0. We didn't play well at all, and I thought Brighton were very good. They had some really, really good chances. Nick Pope made 2 or 3 really big saves that kept us in the game, and we ended up getting a point from that, and it took us through to where we are right now. So Brighton, for me, have always stood out, even from early parts of the season, and they are playing some good stuff, really good stuff, really well organised, well drilled. They've obviously got a new manager now who's just continued that one even more so, and their players just seem to be getting better and better all the time. So, yeah, they're the ones that have kind of really stood out for me, if I'm honest with you. And they're the main ones.
I think it's a bit of it's a bit conclusive, isn't it? I think Brighton have become everyone's sort of favourite team to watch, apart from their own recently. When we got battered, I think it was 3 or 4. So I thought Brighton looked better than Man City played, and I thought Brighton at times it felt like they had like 13, 14 players on the pitch. They were that relentless, and like they taking them on leaps and bounds from Potter. To see how far they can go, if they can keep some of their main players like Alexis McAllister and Moses Caicedo in the summer. Let's talk about the big game against Newcastle at home to Wolves, 4:30 on Sky Sports. You look at the form table there on the right. If you've got good eyesight, Newcastle have lost their last 3 fixtures, whereas Wolves have won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. It's going to be a big game specifically for every point's in play, but Newcastle need to get back to winning ways, don't they? Pete, really, really poor form at the moment.
Yeah, it's our worst form of the season, which is strange to say that we're sitting in March and we're going through our worst period. I think it just tells you the type of season that we've had. But it is, we've had a couple of defeats But as we've said, the last few games that we've had are Liverpool, Man United, and Man City. So it's hard to kind of judge where we're at. And in particular, and we talked about this last night, Dan, is that I think it's really important to say that actually in all three of those games, it's not like we've been hanging on or been at points where we're all over the place. Like we've had moments where we've conceded goals, but we're creating chances. We're pressing teams high. We're still doing all the things that we've been doing all season. We're just not putting the ball in the net. And that's the thing that's really been letting us down. The fact that we're getting chances and we're getting in front of goal, but we're just not putting it in. So at some point, going through this bad rut, and it goes even before those three games, we've had a number of draws even before that, just because we couldn't score. But we were creating chances. And I think once we start putting the ball in the net again and we start building that confidence, I do believe that we'll be okay. And obviously from a Newcastle perspective, we're hoping that Sunday is going to be that game, St James's Park under the lights. It's the perfect chance to kickstart our season again.
Obviously, massively disappointing to lose the Carabao Cup final to Man United. And you couldn't really have asked for a worse fixture than Man City away. But like you said, the form hasn't been great. But you were happy with the performance, even though you ended up 2-0 defeated on the day.
No, I would have liked a little bit more from the team. I was expecting more from the team, if I'm honest. But I can't argue. I can't argue the effort from the players. It wasn't due to a lack of effort. The players give everything, but in just terms of quality, just wasn't there. But again, we still did create good chances. But it's just one of those. It's one of those things. It's our first cup final since I think it's like 24 years, since like 99. I think it was. So it's been a long time. There was a lot of build up, a lot of pressure that was added to that. And I do believe that both Eddie Howe and the players will be better for that. There's no guarantee we'll be back in a cup final next year, but I think Eddie Howe is more determined to ensure that happens now more than ever.
What have you made to Newcastle season so far, Rich?
Impressive. I mean, obviously they under Eddie Howe and some astute acquisitions last January 2022. I think there was obviously that fear when you had the investment that silly money was going to be spent on silly players, and that wasn't the case. And, having someone like Eddie Howe and the sporting director, Dan Ashcroft, I've now completely blanked on his name.
Ashworth. Dan Ashworth.
Ashworth, there we go, not Ashcroft. I think stands the club in really good stead and kind of gives you that indication that they're looking to do things right, so to speak, or they've at least got a plan that we're trying to stick to. It's been interesting because Wolves played Newcastle quite early on. It was a 1-1 draw, and from my perspective, not a huge amount really separated besides that day. But Newcastle have this really solid foundation in that from that back five, including the goalkeeper, and you can kind of clearly see, you've lost your last three to, three of the best teams in the league and a few draws, but it'd be more worrying if you were losing those games. If you were losing to Bournemouth like we did, if you're losing to West Ham like we did earlier on in the season at West Ham, and that's kind of the difference of as a Wolves fan, I've been where Newcastle are in terms of being sixth, seventh in the table and kind of competing up there, and it's kind of rather obvious, but that ability to not lose as many games and to be able to hold out when you might not be playing great, but to grind out those 1-0, 2-1 wins against teams who are not as good as you, and Newcastle seems to have done that throughout the season. Don't get me wrong, there's been some really stellar performances where you've really put teams to the sword as well, but that defensive structure is what's got you here. But by the sounds of it, because of the lack of goals since January, February time, it can always be the thing to hold you back as well. And, there's not an awful lot you can do about it until the summer now, because, it doesn't change overnight, and it might just be, is Callum Wilson going to be able to get you 15 goals a season? Will the Swedish lad Isaac really be able to step up? Because it seems like he's kind of been very quiet from what I've picked up anyway, but it feels like they're just kind of nurturing him into the side, and whether someone like him can make you that, let's say Newcastle finish 6th this season, which will be a fantastic campaign for yourselves. It'll be really difficult for you to continue that next season and to finish 6th next season, because someone like Chelsea will improve, and or for you to be able to kind of go from 6th to 4th, which is the aim of Newcastle, and it will be the aim will be to, you need to get a new striker, or you need to have someone who can get you 15 to 20 goals a season. And that was always the thing that held Wolves back. That we had Jimenez, then we didn't have Jimenez, and we never replaced those goals to be a genuine threat into that elite section of the table. So I know I'm interested to see. I'm really intrigued to watch the game, because I've not watched an awful lot of Newcastle, and in my very biased head, there's not a huge gap between Newcastle and Wolves. It's only these fine margins which Newcastle are really succeeding at, from having, whether it's been having a really consistent goalkeeper all season, having really solid fullbacks, which, it's taken Wolves, 20 odd games into the league season to, have a decent left back in Hugo Bueno, who's now out injured. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how the two sides match up against each other.
I think the key thing that you haven't mentioned there, which Wolves have been missing a lot this season, is a player like Miguel Almiron's form at the start of the season. We just haven't had that standout player, have we? That's had goal contributions falling out of his boots. Pete might tell me I'm wrong, but if they win their 2 games in hand, they will go back into the Champions League places from their current position of 6. What's your thoughts on Newcastle, Ad? And do you think Newcastle can make top 4 this season?
I wouldn't say. I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, with Spurs all over shop at the minute. Liverpool obviously coming back to form, that'll be a problem. Chelsea, I don't know, maybe too little, too late. I don't know. I can still see them getting back on form, but yeah, definitely still think it's possible. But I think it's definitely. I mean, it'll be great for them to get any form of Europe this season. I think a lot of their fans will. They'll still happily take that. But, not fair play to them. I mean, it's similar to us and Sheffield United and West Ham, Leicester, when you see they have such a brilliant start up until to around about this time, is when you normally see your teams like us like properly drop off. But I still think they'll be all right. I mean, with their backing, the signings, investment they made, I think they're definitely in a far better position than we were. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, I still think it is possible, but yeah.
Pete, obviously you had your day out at Wembley, which was just great for you. Obviously Newcastle took over London on the Saturday, and obviously Wembley on the day. That must have given you an absolute an appetite for more days like that. And with the owners, surely you believe Europe is imminent, not just possible.
Yeah, look, we've been sitting in and around the top 4 for most of the season now. I think most Newcastle fans are thinking we are going to get some form of European football, and I think that is the aim now. I think a lot of fans, maybe around December, January time, are thinking, "Yeah, we're getting Champions League," and that kind of expectation is sort of dampened a little bit. But as Aidan said, we're still in the race. Like you just mentioned it now. We win our 2 games in hand, and we actually go back into 4th. So it is still very much possible. And I do believe that the build up to the cup final and the priority of the semi-finals against Southampton home and away, they did take priority. With the players and with the club. I think they were so desperate to get to a cup final that they went all out for it. And I think we're seeing the effects of that now. But now we go back to we're out of the FA Cup, so we go back to 1 game a week. Players will get rest, and we can go at it like we did at the beginning of the season when we were playing really well, and go at 1 game at a time. Whereas, although Tottenham are out of the Champions League, fair enough, but you've got Man United that are still in Europa League. You've got Liverpool at the moment still in the Champions League. And there are other distractions that are going on there. Then hopefully we can up our form and take advantage of that. And look, the next 2 games, yourselves at home, we've got Forest away before the international break. That is, it's a really good opportunity now, having played the likes of Man U, Liverpool, Man City, to play against you guys and really have a go back at St James's Park. We haven't been there for a while, to really kind of go at you guys. And I am expecting a reaction of sorts on Sunday. I really am. And we need those 3 points as soon as possible, because it has been a while since we've not won a game, and we need that boost.
Let's just quickly look at some of the comments from Hugh Lopetegui's press conference today. He wants to take the pressure off the strikers after our strikers have gone over a year now without a goal between them. Insists that the whole team must score goals. Diego Costa, as I mentioned on the Loaded Mag channel last night, his injury when he got stretched off on Saturday is not expected to be as serious as it looked. He's expected to be out for at least a fortnight to a month. Decision to be made on Hwang Hee-chan and Boubacar Traoré tomorrow, who both are back in full training now. Based on sort of your team that featured away at Man City, Pete, and looking at that lineup there on the screen, what sort of changes do you expect Eddie Howe to make for our game on Sunday?
Well, he's had his press conference today, and it's been quite an interesting one, because I think that a lot of the talk was about Wilson and whether Isak would start. I think most fans are looking for a little bit of a change now, a little bit of a switch up, and maybe bring Isak in. We want to see Isak play. We spent a lot of money on him. He had 4 months out with a bad injury, up and around the World Cup break, and then we've kind of been easing him back in. But I think from what Eddie Howe has said in his press conference, the point that he made was that he didn't think Isak he's not ready to play a full 90 minutes. That they were the words that came out. So a lot of fans are now confused. They're thinking, it's going to be Wilson again, Isak off the bench. But then there are some fans are thinking, well, actually, could that mean that Isak starts, plays 60 odd minutes, and then we bring Wilson on for the last stages of the game? So a lot of fans are up in the air now. They were kind of adamant Isak was going to be the choice. Now we're not quite sure what's going to happen. Again, we had the conversation about, will Anderson Maximin play? He didn't play against Man City. I do believe that was more tactical than anything else, in my opinion. And I would expect him to come back in the team, but it's whether they're going to, drop Almiron or Gordon, because Almiron hasn't been great the last few games, and he hasn't been nowhere near his best. And Gordon, he's a new player. He's just getting up to fitness, so they want to see him play and they want him out on the pitch. So they're the question marks really, because the rest of the team is pretty much set. Lascelles will come out because Shaw is back from his concussion that he got at the cup final. The midfield is set because Joe Linton's suspended, so we have Bruno Guimaraes, Sean Longstaff, and Joe Willock will come in. No doubt. And so it's really those attacking areas where we're not quite sure. And I am hoping personally that Isak starts. I think he could cause some trouble to you guys in that defensive area with his pace and his directness, because he has got more pace than Wilson. He is more direct. He likes to run at defenders. Wilson is very much a hold-up, like battle with the centre-backs, which I think the likes of Dawson and Kilman would probably prefer than someone running at them. I don't know what you guys think about that. Would you agree?
Yeah, to be honest, I think if you hit the nail on the head, I mean, historically, Callum Wilson has a really poor record against Wolves as well, like throughout his career. Whether that means too much when he was playing for Coventry City back in 2013 or not, I don't know. But you are right that our centre-halves, someone like Craig Dawson, we've not necessarily seen him tested with the ball over him. Part of it's because he's a decent centre-half who's not getting caught out in position. but he's not getting pushed in those places. I found it quite amusing, Pete, when you were saying, our defence is pretty much set, our midfield's pretty much set. We just need to find that right formula up front. And I think I might have said that pretty much every week as a Wolves fan the last 6 months, because we have exactly the same issues in terms of, finding that blend to make it work up front. And I mean, fortunately, it seems like Newcastle have managed to do it a few more times this season than Wolves. But yeah, I was going to say it was interesting to say, like, do you bring in someone like Alassane Maximin? Because I'm looking at our bench and going, well, do you play Adama Traore? Because you've got Dan Burn at left back, and if it's not Dan Burn, it's going to be Matty Target. And again, historically, both of those have been a banker, an absolute banker, to get a booking when they play against Wolves. Because by 50 minutes, they would have not pulled down Adama Traore. I mean, Adama Traore wouldn't have done anything else in the game because he's Adama Traore. But yeah, I found it'd be interesting to sort of see how you line up, especially with those couple of additional attacking players.
Looking at that lineup, Aidan, for Newcastle that lost 2-0 away to Man City last weekend, what players concern you from that lineup? I mentioned quite regularly on Pete's show last night that Alassane Maximin's always been an absolute nuisance against Wolves. What player stands out for you from that Newcastle squad?
I'd definitely say Guimaraes. It was last season where we lost 1-0 at their place, and he just ran the midfield. And I just think he's top quality, like world class. I definitely think he's a big problem. I mean, hopefully Lamina, I think he'd be better suited to coming up against someone like him. Obviously, we haven't had him before. And I think Isaac. I think he's the type of striker that definitely gives our defence a problem. Like, I can just see that. Sorry.
Looking at the Wolves lineup there, obviously Pedro Neto came off at half time last weekend. Adama Traore had a blistering end to the game. Who's your front three to face Newcastle on Sunday, Aidan?
Front three, I definitely think Cunha needs to start. I think he needs to start again with Jimenez. And out wide, I'd say Sarabia, and I'd say Pedro Neto. Again, I think Adama's just a lot better off the bench. I mean, I wouldn't be against him starting at all. I think he can give Dan Burn and Matt Target a tough time, as he has done in the past. But I think, I'd definitely go for him as an impact sub again.
What about you, Rich? Who's your front three to line up against Newcastle on Sunday?
Yeah, I agree with Aidan pretty much. I think Jimenez obviously is starting again. Yeah, he played probably the best I've seen him play this season against Spurs, and even looked promising against Fulham as well. So that's nailed on, replacing Costa. Cunha needs to start. Again, he's the player who's making that link between the midfield and the defence. And Sarabia seems to be quietly finding his feet as well. I know he still splits opinion on Wolves fans, and I get it, because for me, Sarabia at the moment, he's like Diogo Jota without that sense of aggression in his play. And I can see why that would kind of irritate fans. So I don't think I'd necessarily start Adama, despite what I kind of said about coming up against Dan Burn, because I think that front three has the most potential. And if I'm right, I'm thinking it was the front three started against Liverpool as well. So I think that interlinking play should benefit us. And again, I'd be keeping the same midfield three in Lamina, Neves and Nunes as well, because that's, again, hopefully got the most balance and dynamism. And then fingers crossed, Traore is on the bench for us as well if he passes his fitness test.
Pete, coming back to you for this Newcastle side, Joe Linton is apparently out for the game on Sunday, which is going to be a big blow for you due to obviously his energy and physicality he brings to your team. Who's most likely to replace Joe Linton?
Firstly, you're right. Joe Linton's a massive miss for us. He's been probably, arguably one of our top three players of the season. He's been outstanding for us, but he's wholehearted. and that's why he gets so many bookings, bless him. But he's going to be out for the next 2 games, unfortunately for us. But we haven't got many other options, I have to be honest. So it will be Willock that comes in. Willock just made the cup final after having a bit of a hamstring injury against Bournemouth a couple of weeks before. He came on, I think, in the cup final. He then played as well. He came off the bench against Man City, so he's looking like he's back to full fitness now, and he's going to be an important player. We need him fit and firing because he does get us up the pitch. He loves to carry the ball long distances. He's deceptively very, very quick with the ball at his feet. And he come on and made a real difference to us against Man City. It was actually really weirdly, you probably didn't watch the game, but Man City scored their second goal against a run of play because we just brought on Isak, ASM and Willock. And we had like 2 or 3 really good chances. Like I'm talking like we should have put at least one of them away. And Willock came on and made a massive difference, as did Isak. And I do believe that Willock coming back in and firing like that will be a good way to combat your midfield 3, because your midfield 3 you've just put up there, Neves, Mario Lemina, and Nunez. I think you said those 3. Good. That's a good midfield 3. And it should make for a really, really good battle, and it could be the difference. It could be the difference whoever wins that battle in there.
Yeah, I made the comment on your show last night, Pete, that I feel that where the game will be won, it will be on our right side and your left side. Obviously, if Alan St-Maximin comes in at left wing, you've got Adama running at Dan Burn or Matt Target, and you've got Alan St-Maximin running at Semedo. I think Nelson Semedo struggled to deal with Alan St-Maximin the few games that we've played against him. So that's going to be a key battle on Sunday. We did have a light-hearted segment on your show last night, Pete, where we talked about footballers for Newcastle and Wolves that have got sort of celebrity lookalikes. Obviously, you've got Matt Ritchie on your subs bench, who's similar to Gordon Ramsay, and Anthony Gordon there, who looks a bit like Princess Diana. Can I hear other people's suggestions? I'll come to you first, Richard. Any players, past or present, for Wolves that look similar to celebrities or characters?
Ooh, you've put me on the spot now.
Yeah,
no,
if anyone's watching, obviously in the comment section, let us know your lookalikes for former Wolves players, past and present.
Come back to me. I'll think of one.
Anyone stand out for you, Aiden, off the top of your head? Just have a random one. I said Matt Target looked like Doug Funny from Nickelodeon. That seemed to go down a little. It seemed to go down okay, but then obviously someone from the comment section said he looks like Sherman from American Pie, which won the battle in my opinion.
I think Matt Target looks a bit like Kenny Jackett. I think I've got.
Yeah, I can see that.
Similar face in the face.
I think Lisa in your comment section said like Matt Target looked like a gerbil, didn't she, Pete? So I can understand the Kenny Jackett resemblance there to a degree. Small pupils, that front booked.
Definitely.
Any other lookalikes that? Any other lookalikes? Can you think of any, Pete? Past or present?
What, for either team? Oh God. Oh, I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head. Or you have to come back to me.
I think mine was a bit of a stretch. I do think Mateus Cunha does look a bit like Josh Denzel.
Yeah, the Sky Sports presenter, a former Love Island Lothario, is that the one?
Yeah, that's the guy.
I do see that.
Yeah, Danny P from Baltimore in the comment section saying Sarabia looks a little bit like Diogo Jota. He has been compared to he has been described as an Aldi Jota by some Wolves fans, Pablo Sarabia, which is a bit unfortunate for the guy. We may as well just settle, guys, that Anthony Gordon looks like Princess Diana. God rest her soul. Let's have our score. Let's just have our score predictions for the game on Sunday. I'm going to come to you first, Aidan. Newcastle Wolves Sunday, 4:30 on Sky Sports. What's your score prediction?
I'm saying 1-1 for the 500th time.
That's where the easy money is. Everyone knows Aiden's been on more fences than Ron Seal, so he's going for the 1-1 draw. Rich, what's your score prediction?
I was going to say, I really wanted to say 1-1, but I can't now. I don't feel I can. I'm going to be confident in Wolves for once and go for 2-1. I don't quite know how we will score 2 goals, but I don't know. I think, Pete, as you were saying, I think it's going to be a really hard game of football for both sides. Like you said, you compare those 2 midfields. That is proper blockbuster midfield. So I think it's definitely going to be tight, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to be biased and think that Wolves will win.
Pete, for those that haven't got 2 hours of their spare time to watch your episode last night where I joined you, just remind us what your score prediction was for Sunday's game.
I've got it as a battle, on Sunday. But I think they're always close games, so I've gone with a Newcastle 1-0. I think we'll nick it. I think we'll nick the result. We're desperate for a win, a little bit like last season, really desperate for a win. I think we'll get the goal and then try and obviously ensure that we get those 3 points in the bag. That's what we went with last night, so I'm sticking with it. I'll stick with that 1-0.
I boldly went for a 1-0 win to Wolves, did not pay, based on the fact that Raul Jimenez has got a good goal tally contribution against Newcastle, and Nick Pope in particular. He looked back to the Raul of old, didn't he, last week, Rich, against Tottenham. I mentioned that sort of one moment where he chased their fullback down and ended up clearing it out for a corner. Obviously, created the goal for Adama Traore with a nice touch away from the defender and getting his shot away. I'm hoping that the old Raul is back and he can kickstart his season by getting us the winner on Sky Sports on Sunday. There's still quite a few people in the comment section talking about football lookalikes. Mark Todd saying Karius looks like Thor. Mark Todd saying Anthony Gordon looks like Claire Balding. And Ponce de Leon with another comment saying Jamie O'Hara looks like Little Dan. But I mean, I've never had that one before. I've had Danny Murphy, I had Ian Beale in school, I've had various ones in my life, but I've never had Jamie O'Hara, Ponce de Leon. Thanks for your comments on there.
Who's the guy in your picture you just had when we had the 2 teams up?
Pedro Neto.
Pedro Neto.
Yeah. On the picture you put up a second ago with the 2 squads. I can't remember. Yeah, but if it's Pedro Neto, he looks like, I don't know if you remember from EastEnders. Is it Beppe DeMarco, the EastEnders character? He looks a little bit like
it's purely the goatee, isn't it, Pete? It's purely the goatee, but
the goatee's definitely playing a part. But there's some similarities there. That's my one. I'm throwing that one out there.
Yeah, Pete, that's as bad as my Matt Target looking like Doug Funny. It's purely down to the goatee, isn't it? I'm going to let Pedro Neto let you know what he thinks about your comparison of him looking like Beppe DeMarco.
False. Very false.
True.
No. Very false. It's so false. It's very bad.
we must have had that on StreamYard, Dan, for well over a year, and neither of us have deleted it for one moment. And it has been worth it to save it for this.
Always forward thinking. I knew that Pedro Neto video was going to come in handy at some point. It's false. It's very, very false. Right, before we end the show, just want to say thanks to everyone that's joining us. Thanks for everyone that's commenting. Make sure you like the video before you leave, because it's going to cost you nothing. It's going to help us grow as a channel, get our shows in other people's YouTube feeds and whatnot. As always, we end the show with sudden death squads, which, if you don't know how the game yet, I'll be picking a game from a previous Newcastle versus Wolves game. It's sudden death. You have to name a player that featured in the game. If you get a player wrong, you're out of the game. Unfortunately for Aiden, this game was in May the 9th, 2004. So Aiden's going to have to try and use some sort of wisdom beyond his age to try and remember players that featured in that game. So this was You mentioned that you went for the 1-1 draw, which would be the 500th 1-1 draw. This was, I think, the 249th 1-1 draw in the history of Wolves back in 2004. So, Pete, as you're our guest, I'm going to come to you first. It was Newcastle's 1, May the 9th, 2004, and this game mathematically relegated Wolves back to the Championship that day. Name a player that featured in that game, Pete.
I'm going to go for the obvious and say Alan Shearer. 2004? Yeah, Alan Shearer.
Alan Shearer did lead the line for Newcastle that day. I'm going to come to you next, Rich.
Would have been second half of the season, so Paul Jones in goal.
Paul Jones did play in goal that day. Aidan, I'm gonna give you 2 attempts. If you don't get your first one, I'm gonna give you another go, and then I'm gonna leave it to the old score to play it out.
We say Dennis Irwin.
Dennis Irwin was correct, Aidan. You're still in the game. I love to see the kids fighting back at the old ones. Back to you, Pete.
I'm gonna go Shay Given.
Shay Given was in goal. The Ireland goalkeeping legend that is Shay Given. Going to come back to you now, Rich.
Can I just double check? It's featured in the game, not starting.
If you name a sub, you have to go again.
Okay. Actually, that's quite... Well, I know he scored for Wolves that game, but I can't remember if he started or not. But Vioganea scored.
Yeah, Vioganea was a sub that day, so you'll have to go again.
Okay.
He came on for Dennis Irwin.
Oh, okay then. Then I'll go for Carl Court.
Former Newcastle striker Carl Court. The Carl Court Classico on this Sunday is a correct answer. It's back to you, Aidan, to stay in the game. Name a player from Newcastle Wolves, May 2004.
Mark Kennedy.
Mark Kennedy is another great answer, My favourite Wolves player of that era, and probably my top 10 Wolves favourite players of all time. What a left foot. Back to you, Pete. Name another player from May 2004.
I'm not sure about this one, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say Craig Bellamy.
Unfortunately, Pete, you're out of the game. Craig Bellamy was not in the match day squad that day for whatever reason. He was probably causing a nuisance somewhere, maybe threatening to break someone's legs with a golf club, maybe, or just being an absolute nuisance. That is Craig Bellamy. Would kill his own family to win 3 points. He is that footballer. Rich, it's you against Aid, and now to win the game. Name a player that featured in May 2004's fixture between Newcastle and Wolves.
I'm going to stick defensively, go Isaac Okoronkwo, because he played again the back end. He didn't play first half season, he played back end.
Yeah, this was our second from last game of the season, I believe, and Isaac Okoronkwo did start for Wolves that day. Aidan, can you stay in the game? Rich winning this week's sudden squads?
Surely Paul Ince got to be playing, though. Paul Ince?
I believe Paul didn't die for Wolves. It's 10. This is the longest sudden death squads we've had this season. It doesn't usually last half as long as this because usually Jeffo has got someone wrong. It's back to you, Rich.
Lee Naylor?
Lee Naylor was our left back that day. Let's keep it repetitive now. Back to you, Aidan.
Say Jody Craddock.
Jody Craddock did not play for Wolves that day, and this week's winner is Richard Hobbs. But I'm just going to quickly show you the goals from that day. Lee Bowyer was the goal scorer for Newcastle, and obviously, as Rich mentioned, Vioganea equalised late on for Wolves, which ended up the game finishing with St James Park. Obviously, Lee Bowyer there with a decent front post finish in the first half, and Vioganea with a lovely left foot drill finish. That
was my first reaction.
I believe back in 2004, VAR was non-existent, Pete, so you're going to just have to deal with it. That was this week's sudden death squads.
2 points. We'll date those 2 points. We'll throw them on for this season. It'll help us out.
There's a good chance that may have scuppered you getting top 4 that season. We might have to look at the league table after the show to have a look at that. Here's all the other answers you could have had on this week's Sudden Death squads. You had Shay Given, Stephen Caldwell, Torres Bramble, Lauren Robert, Gary Speed, rest his soul. Up front for Newcastle was Charlotte Amiobi and Alan Shearer. Other players that you could have had for Wolves, Henri Camara, Colin Cameron, Paul Butler. Yeah, that's this week's Sudden Death squads. Thanks to everyone that's joined us on the Wolves Fancast match preview at Wolves Fancast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Pete, tell everyone where they can find you and the rest of the Toon Army.
You can find us at Loaded Mag NUFC. You can see it on my description just there. YouTube channel. Come and give a subscribe. Like as Dan said, we're a very welcoming fan base on Loaded Mag NUFC. Always have fans from various different clubs and love to get everyone involved. So come and join us in the chat to talk all things Newcastle and football in general. On our way to 6K, so help us along with that. That'd be much appreciated. And again, I just want to say massive thanks to you guys for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Really good chat.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you on, Pig. As I said, if you like football, just like a good football chat, watch the Loaded Mag NUFC channel. They're on every other day in the week, similar to ourselves at Wolves Fancast. As I said, mentioned on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Please drop a subscribe if you haven't already. We're close to breaking the 2,000 mark. So we appreciate everyone that continues to support the channel, whether it's on social media or on YouTube. Thanks again to 90 Min for helping us put together this channel. Just another reminder, we've got a 2-ticket competition to Dave Edwards charity match. Shrewsbury 11 versus an old school Wolves 11 at, I was going to say Gay Meadow, but it's Montgomery Waters now, Rich?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, 26th of March, Shrewsbury 11 versus Wolves 11, an old school Wolves 11 featuring Dave Edwards, Carla Keamy, various other legends from that era of Wolves. As I said, I hope you all have a great weekend. Hopefully, we'll be back on Sunday with a podcast to celebrate a win over Newcastle. But if not, we'll be there on Sunday to help you catharticize about the defeat. Is that the right word, Rich?
Yeah. If it isn't, I think we all know what we mean.
Yeah, we'll help you get through like we always do. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Aidan for making his Fancast debut tonight. I hope you'll come on again.
Thanks a lot
this week. This week we've got Trampoline who are on tour in April with their latest single together to play us out for the show. Everyone, keep safe, take care, God bless. At Wolves Fancast. Good night.
When you do have it, you can see from the flash.